just want to talk about how I started in driving. Now, it wasn't a family tradition. I didn't have a grandfather or father that drove, and I just continued on with it, with the family driving jobs, but there was nothing like that. And I started fairly late. I was 21 before I got my truck licence. I was actually working in warehousing. I was a storeman at the time, and I've seen a few opportunities for storeman drivers doing deliveries, and that was my career, warehousing at the time. So I decided to go get a truck licence. At that time you didn't need to graduate from heavy rigid to semi. You could go straight to a semi licence, which I did. There was no B-doubles at that time. There was road trains, but you never had the opportunity to do that unless you moved to an area that's sort of done that sort of thing. So I went and got my licence, done it part-time. It took me about 6 weeks to do that. Now, I was working in warehousing. The company I was working for, the job was a little bit boring, a bit slow. So I decided, since I got my truck licence, I ended up leaving that company and got a job driving full time. It was a retailer that done electrical goods, bit of white goods, bit of furniture. Never had to do the furniture though. But I delivered from the warehouse, picked the orders, and then delivered it the next day. Now, I drove an Isuzu. It was a 5-ton, like a furniture van. And Isuzus are good trucks, still are, I guess, but they were probably one of the best rigid trucks you could get. I'll just turn that down. One of the best rigid trucks you could drive, very smooth, easy to turn, easy to park. So I did that for a little while, but I didn't get on too well with the supervisor there, so I ended up leaving there and went and got some casual jobs. But the truck I was driving in this casual job wasn't real good. It was an old Dodge, and I worked there for a couple of weeks, and I think it was off the road. I think I was only on the road for 4 days in that 2 weeks because things kept breaking on it. Not my fault, I hope. No, it was battery went flat and sort of things like that. So I left there, but I went back into warehousing for a little bit, and then we moved out of Melbourne. I was living in Melbourne at the time, and I moved out of Melbourne and went up to the border. And there I got a job warehousing again with a major food manufacturer. Just trying to negotiate some trucks here. And I stayed there for 5.5 years. And they had a little rigid truck, which I drove occasionally. Wasn't very often. Because I had a regular driver, and it had 3 different plants, this food manufacturer. We used to drive raw materials between the plants because they were stored in different places. So I got an opportunity to drive there. Now they actually sold out to a major corporation, and things change as they do. Well, I'd been there sort of long enough, so it's time to move on again. So I went into, there was a contractor there, transport company, and I knew them fairly well, so I went over and worked for them. And I started like an apprenticeship, I guess, because I learned to drive the semis, we used to go load, and they had a driver trainer that used to just go out with you. And I learned to tarp there. And back in the days when they had tarps. Now I got taught by some of the best tarpers, because they went they were fairly old by that time, and that's all they'd done. Taut liners weren't real popular when they started, they just started to come in. So I got taught by some of the best how to tarp. I could probably still do it now, and I know how to do it. Whether I'd be quick at it, I don't think so. But I know the fundamentals of it. There's probably drivers out there that never put a tarp on. And you probably don't want to either. It's hard work. Left that job and went into work for stores work again back in the Department of Defence. They had an army base up in Wodonga. And just to supply Army, Navy, Air Force. So we picked the orders. It was a government job. I was there for 2.5 years and they privatised, as government departments do. While I was doing the warehouse job, just before they privatised, they gave us a bit of money to retrain if we wanted to, in case we didn't get another job or we wanted to move on to something else. So I went and got a B-double licence. And I didn't pass it the first time. I couldn't go back in a straight line. Well, it was actually an extra one. It's supposed to be ratio of 3 to 1 instructor, and there's 4 of us. They just sort of slotted me in there. And we ran out of time. It was getting dark, so we had to move on and do other things. So I didn't actually pass that backing in a straight line in 70 metres, I think it was at the time. On that, I had to come back and do the backing side of it. So which was only took me longer to drive there than what it did to actually do the backing test, and they passed me. And then I was working this other job, and I actually had it 2 years before I drove a B-double. And how I drove a B-double is they kept asking me, and they asked me did I want to learn to drive them, take them out. I said I wouldn't mind doing it. I'd have to do it locally first and just take it out for a weekend and just try it. And they were happy with that, but I've never actually done it. I went, my first trip, they asked me one day, would you take the B-double out? And I said, yeah, all right, I'll give it a go. But my first trip was from Victorian border in Wodonga to Brisbane. So we ended up making it up there, and I got back again, and after that, well, I was a B-double driver. We'll end up leaving there. Well, I worked there for about 2.5 years. I left there and we moved back down to Melbourne. And I got a job back in warehousing because I had a friend of a friend. Done a little bit of driving in that time. I just done a little bit of casual work. And I went back into warehousing where I was picking parts for an engine manufacturer. And they had a small truck as well, and they found out I had a licence, so I done deliveries as well. When the regular driver was on holidays or wasn't there at the time. So I did that for a little while, and then I ended up getting separated from my wife, and we went our separate ways. So I went and got another driving job full time, but it was going to Brisbane. I went to Brisbane a couple of times. I'd done a bit of local things with a fencing company, and they didn't have much work to do local, and they had another driver that was in Brisbane that wanted to do the interstate work. So they couldn't keep me on, but the manager there actually found me a job. He actually called around the transport companies and found a job for me, and they said there was one at Bunker Freight Line. If anyone been driving in Australia for a long time, they know about Bunker Freight Lines. Everyone had worked there, and they didn't have a good reputation, but I found them pretty good. And then when I went to Bunkers, and they put me on straight away when I went to see them, because he had the recommendation from the boss I was working for. So I went off full-time interstate, and I've been full-time interstate. I was away a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time. Longest I was really away was 21 days, and I was living out of the truck, living out of depots. I had bunk rooms at that time in depots, and no single rooms in the share. Sleep in the truck if you wanted to, if you went to Queensland, but they had no air conditioning in the trucks. At least the rooms had air conditioning. And I worked there for quite a while, I think just on 5 years. Now I got injured me back. Now not just because of, look, driving is probably part of it, with the rough roads and the seats in the trucks weren't that good. But you can also get this injury doing other things. It's just you can just be working in an office and be sitting for long periods of time. That was probably the worst thing, is sitting down a lot, not getting enough exercise. So I had to have surgery, and I was off work for a little while they recovered from that. So when I finished that, I actually went back. I didn't know whether I could drive again, whether I should go back and drive. Doctors all advise you to change careers and don't do that again. But when you haven't been doing anything else for quite a while, it's a bit harder to. And when you actually get older, it's a bit harder to get back into the workforce doing something else. So I went and trialled it out again. I actually went back. I worked for an agency, and I went back to Bunker Freight Lines, which had actually changed its name to Red Star at that time, got bought out. So I went and worked for them with the agency, and I knew the company, I knew their work, so I went and done some changeover. I went to Sydney, went to Adelaide. I told them I didn't want it because the accommodation, although it was single accommodation, but you're sort of sleeping in, they had containers set up, and you're sleeping in containers up in Sydney. Air conditioned, but they're quite dirty places, and the air conditioners didn't work too well. And Adelaide had portable buildings that weren't very good. Again, dirty again, so they weren't cleaned up very well. There was a good run. They used to go up to Dubbo, from Melbourne to Dubbo, which is 10 hours. Then you stay there for your break. I was driving 14 hours at that time, so I could only had to stay there 10 hours, and you stay in a motel and you come back. So I did that for a little while just to make sure I could go back into driving, and then I found a job full-time with Linfox when I started doing videos. I was working for Linfox, doing the Star Trek contract. They just got that contract. I was actually doing it before with the job I stayed at 5 years for. So I got onto that job, and then I stayed there for 2.5 years before this one job I come up now, where I could take my wife with me. The reason I took this job, as I said before, is because of the passenger rule, and it's a pretty easy job, depot to depot. The trucks are well looked after, although you probably wouldn't want to look at the windscreen right now because it's quite dirty. But that's unavoidable in summertime where there's insects everywhere. So I've been here now for 6 months, and you know I got the big cab aerodyne. So we'll stay here for a while and see how this eventuates. The job's pretty easy now. They're good to work for. So we'll do this for a little while, see how we go, see how we. As you get older, you start to feel aches and pains that you never had before, so we'll see how that goes.